I think for most people, comparing and comparison between themselves and others is the normal way for them to be able to establish either a baseline or to highlight their superiority and or understand their inferiorities. And it also probably provides a little bit of a comfort for people to be able, in their comparison, find something to which they can hold on to. And thinking about those comparisons, and specifically thinking about the United States, I had the desire to compare three countries. And the comparison that I wanted to take place were to be within gun ownership and suicide rates and certainly the age of responsibility. Now, I don't have any answers of any nature to why it happens to be the case, but it seems that the reality is that the United States is going to certainly be the country that is going to be the most in gun ownership. As a matter of fact, to every 100 residents, there is about 120 firearms, which is comparable to Finland, is 4 times high because Finland has roughly about 32 firearms per 100 residents, which then compared to Japan is indicative of, I think, 0.3% of people, which shows that the United States is about 120 times more guns in the hands of populace than Japan has. What it means is I'll leave that determination up to you. But the second comparison I wanted to do is about the rates of suicide. And here I want to highlight why specifically I've used Finland as the third country, mostly because Finland continuously scores really high on their happiness ranking. But the information is going to probably be surprising to you, because in the last 10 years, when we look at Japan, we see between 2011 and 2020 marked decrease in the suicides. They went from about 30,000 to about 21,000 people taking their own lives per year. United States is comparable with 40,000 to 48,000, and whereas Finland is actually has a pretty high suicide rate. I think last year they've recorded close to 817 deaths, but you also got to remember that the population of Finland is less than 5.5 million people. So interestingly enough, if we were to look at the possession of firearms and then to look at the statistical average, Finland would be represented at suicide rate of 13.7 per 100,000. United States is like a 12.5, and Japan is like 12.2, which all indicates that clearly that people tend to within these three countries have comparable suicide rates, even though all the other numerics and statistics are different. And more importantly, and just not necessarily as a pinpointing, but it's reflective that it seems like in Japan, with people killing themselves at the same rates as they do here in the United States, not availability of the firearms does not significantly impact the number of people who take their own lives. And the last thing I wanted to look at was the age of responsibility. And here something just jumped at me, and I did not, I wasn't completely ready to accept it until I had to look into it. At what age can somebody be held culpable for the action? I will take with the middle, and I would say that Japan has a 12 years age after which people can be held responsible for their criminal actions. Finland has 15 years of age as its baseline. Now, United States was the thing that popped to me and was a standout, which is 6 years. We can hold people responsible for criminal action at the age of 6. When we think about these statistics and those comparative things, it just becomes mind-boggling when we start to realize that numbers and data in it of themselves don't necessarily give us too many answers. Yet the questions aren't difficult ones, and there should be an easier way for us to be able to understand that we should, not just us as in the United States, but in the world, we need to pay a closer attention to what's going on in order to be able to find ways to be able to stop the increased and definitively continued loss of life that takes place. And certainly, when we think about the criminality of the issues, it becomes even more important for us to take under the consideration of which laws we pass and which laws we abolish. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in the positions in which we find ourselves, which is continuously comparing with other countries and then shrugging our shoulders and moving forward. And that's part of the reason why the continuous problems take place within the United States. And specifically, I'll just one funny law within the United States that still exists, and it's more of a local issue, that in Pasadena, secretaries were not allowed to be in the same room with their bosses, right? Like even the language of it would be indicative that there would be problematic. And even on the books till now, there is, if I remember correctly, the Zoot Suit law within the Los Angeles that prevents people and will make people be fined if they're wearing the attire. Now, certainly nobody enforces those laws, but those laws exist. And I think that over complexification or whatever the word is problematic, which needs to be much more simpler. So we would be able to actually look and recognize that the people are impacted by the laws that are created, whether that be gun control or no gun control, whether that be assistance for suicide matters or more certainly, and finally in order to ensure that those people get the help and that do not have to resolve to those extremities, and finally the legal culpability. At which age should we charge and put people to prison?